Tonight on The GOAT Show.
Well, now we know how to design bongs.
That was the old school stuff.
So Keithan has an old school video game collection?
And I'm going, really? That sounds dumb.
There's a good chance that they're a Democrat.
I will say this, I'm not red, I'm not blue.
Doesn't even make any sense to me.
Justice needs to be reformed.
Yeah. Welcome to The GOAT Show, the show where we celebrate and debate all things great. My name is ZiLLY, aka Ravine. I am joined by my co-hosts, Fresh and Deezy. Gentlemen, are you feeling like you're the captains of your ships?
I mean, sometimes I'm the captain, sometimes I'm first mate.
Ain't that the truth? Well, I'll tell you what, we have a certified captain coming on the show today. You don't want to miss this one. If you are a gamer, if you are interested in streaming, if you're interested in 3D printing, or perhaps you want to go on your own homesteading journey, you're going to want to stay around and check out the show. Before we do, a word from our sponsor.
Blood beard, what a beard!
He's got a beard, a very special beard, a romantically inclined beard. Oh, what a beard, you can't resist it. Blonde beards.
Go to blondebeards.com and use code GOAT at checkout for 10% off your first order.
All right, we're back. Today on the show, I'm so excited to have this person. Very fascinating. His name, he goes by the moniker Captain Kearn. He is a streamer, a gamer, a 3D. He teaches people how to 3D print. So many things. So without further ado, welcome, Captain Kearn. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
So the way we found out about you, I think Fresh here. Fresh, how did you first meet Captain? Maybe you can tell the people here.
So, in the mornings when I get up, I sit in the bath and I answer my emails. And then I tend to scroll some reels and
This guy here sitting in the bath like a luxury, like a King Ralph. Anybody remembers that movie?
absolutely. Well, it's actually like Rev Run. You know what I mean?
Okay. Sorry, continue.
So I finish answering my emails and I'm watching some reels and I came across this guy and he's like, oh, I'm watching these streamers with like no viewers or a little bit of viewers. And then he told Captain's story and I started crying and I'm like, I need to have this guy on the show. And yeah, that's where we're at. And then I reached out to him and we're here.
Yeah, definitely. You know, a story to tell. But before we get to that, Captain, something we do with every guest that we have on the show is we ask them if they could have any superpower, what would it be?
Any superpower? That's actually a really good one. I would probably want the ability to disappear.
Interesting. Any particular reason why, or just you want to just be alone with your thoughts? Is that the idea?
No, not really. Just to be able to prevent stupidity from happening.
All right, the ability to disappear, good one. I can get behind that. Well, from superpowers to superhero origin stories, tell us a bit about yourself. Maybe your early life, where you're from, you know, growing up, that type of thing.
I'm from Northeast Colorado. Been here my entire life. I was actually born in Denver, but I lived out on the Northeast Colorado plains for 48 years now. Grew up on a farm. When my parents first got divorced, my mom married a farm gentleman, and that's where I grew up. Rode horses, tended cattle.
So is that sort of where? Because I know that you recently made a video on your channel, on your YouTube channel, talking about homesteading, and I know Deezy down here has his own foray into homesteading. So I'm just kind of curious: is that where that comes from, and what is you know, homesteading to you, and why should people maybe learn to grow something or do something at their home?
So homesteading to me is being able to take care of yourself, because there's nothing inside that grocery store anymore that's healthy. And I've learned that from my journey through 48 years of beating my body up. You start eating actual fresh, fruits and vegetables and actual real beef, and, chicken, pork, what have you, good farm raised fresh stuff. That's where it comes from. Um, Urban homesteading has changed, homesteading itself as a way of life has changed. I live in town. I have a double corner lot, and you know, we used to garden the whole front yard, the whole backyard, the whole jazz, and then we would can everything and put it up at the end of the year and use it throughout the year. And that was a great way to live. Have chickens in the backyard. Especially this day and age, eggs are $9 a dozen. Costs less than that to go buy a dozen chickens.
Yeah, I mean, well, Deezy, that's what you do, Deezy.
I have 9 birds, and we sell a dozen eggs for $12. We got tons of people that want our all natural fresh eggs, so
Who would have thought in 2025 that eggs would be a premium product on the market? But just goes to show what leads to what. We were talking about Colorado, a little bit before this interview, and so I mean, do you feel is Colorado still friendly to homesteaders and in general, or are they trying to? It seems like a lot of other. I know in California, they went after all the raw milk producers and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, honestly, it depends on the county. So out here, we're not considered Colorado. You know, uh, basically the state of Colorado, the actual government considers us, part of Kansas and Nebraska because we have such a low population count out here. There's 10,000 people in my entire county. You know, there's just not a lot of folks out here. And, but funny enough, this county has more cattle than anywhere in the state of Colorado.
I've been thinking about that a lot because I mentioned on a previous episode, I used Perplexity AI and asked it because I was eating a really great steak, and it just hit me. I was like, I wonder what where's the best place to grow cattle and do grass fed steaks and all that kind of stuff. And I asked it, and it gave me. I mean, it's pretty amazing. I don't know how you feel about AI, but it's super amazing. It went in and all the detail, and it was like. And it turns out here in Florida, little bit over, kind of on the hook of the Panhandle. There's a lot of great farmland for growing cattle, and went into all the soil and everything. So I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna quit the show. I'm gonna raise me some cattle. Become a cattle farmer. What do you think?
I think if you want to be a cattle farmer and raise the best cows, you got to come to Canada, come to Alberta, and raise some good beef, bro.
I mean, well, if we can somehow get this Canada country to be our 58th state.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I've had some Canadian Wagyu though. That's pretty good stuff.
It is. It is. I mean, look, I wouldn't be opposed to us having some kind of conjoined something. I just don't know if Canada can be a state.
Yeah, it's too liberal. It's too liberal. There's too many progressives.
Half of Canada probably could. The other half would not.
We'll tell you what. We'll give California and the West Coast to the other half of Canada. They can be their own country, and then we'll split up. Time for a divorce. I don't know. What about like family, things like that? Kind of family life and things of that nature.
Well, I've been married for 29 years and got 4 children. One of them's no longer with us, sadly. But my oldest is 28, and then I have a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old, all 3 boys. My daughter's no longer with us.
So, and if you're comfortable, we can talk about that in a minute. But I have to ask though, because I'm a single bachelor still. All right, everybody's looking at me like I'm a weirdo being in my. I'm not gonna say my age. Anyway, I'm old. I'm still a bachelor, but whatever. But Deezy here is a young married man, fresh over here, is married basically. What advice do you have for maintaining a long-lasting, happy, healthy marriage?
Communication. Just talk things out. No matter how angry somebody gets, just talk it out. My wife and I have been through so much over the last almost 30 years. And the biggest reason we're together is 1, we took our vows seriously. And 2, we may be mad at each other for a day. The next day we will sit down and we will talk it out. But I can tell you this: in 30 years, we've never gone to bed mad at each other.
Noted. I go to bed mad all the time, man. I got to change that with myself, So if I got a woman next to me, man.
But I can tell you this, though. I'm only captain in name, because if you've been married as long as I have, you know who the real captain of the house is.
You're supposed to disguise it as she's your counsel. Come on, Cap. You gotta stay solid in our masculinity here. Don't give up the secrets.
I'm solid in my masculinity, my friend, but I know where its limits are.
Switching to something that like Fresh mentioned earlier, and I don't know this. I don't actually know the full story, but you're saying that you did lose one of your daughters, and we talked about it before the show, and whether you're comfortable talking about that, and you were saying that you would like to just to warn other people about things. So, whatever way you feel comfortable, can you maybe talk about that? What happened, and what we should all take away from it?
Well, I will tell you this. January 3rd, 2022 was the worst day of my life. I've never felt anything like that. We were awoken about just after midnight by one of my daughter's best friends beating our door down. And my wife came and got me up, and her best friend was bawling her eyes out, and she couldn't hardly get out what had happened. But she was contacted. My daughter lived in Nebraska. She was 21 at the time, so she's an adult. And said that there was something that had happened, and my daughter Tessa was no longer with us. Well, I got a hold of the other girl, my daughter's best friend up there, and she said that Tess had been killed, and that it was her fiance that had done it. So I can tell you that it pretty much broke me for about 18 months. And I've been slowly rebuilding myself, and then helping the rest of my family rebuild since then. But the largest takeaway from it is it was domestic violence. My daughter was a hero. You're talking about hero stories. She actually prevented him from taking the life of 2 others that night, and lost her life in the process.
I mean, I don't know what to really say other than I'm really sorry that happened to you. I mean, maybe we can talk about domestic violence and things like that. I know that we live in kind of a weird culture now where there seems to be sort of this I feel like maybe a little bit artificially inflated conflict between the genders, questions about masculinity, questions about the role of women, and I don't know. I'm a 90s kid. I grew up, my mom, she was a working woman, and she was a great mother. She still is. She still was. And my dad worked too, and and they made it work, and it was fine. And I feel like I know it might be seem kind of like a long way to get to this, but I feel like in this conflict that has come up between, I guess, the genders and all this stuff in popular culture, I feel like on some level it's obfuscating very serious situations and relationship conflicts, and I'm not sure how you feel about that. Is there because I guess what I'm saying is there's sort of like, at least for men, there's like this idea of like, oh, like you need to be this hyper masculine, narcissistic, kind of, I don't know, kind of type of individual. And I'm just curious, like, is there something in that lets people off the hook for behaving poorly, shall we say?
So I'm Gen X. So I grew up in a slightly different era where that whole concept had just started to begin, right? Um, I have my own personal belief that you can be, you know, Canadian woodchopper masculine, you know, but that shouldn't affect your attitude. Um, one of my taglines that I say during my broadcasts is, you know, you live your life. You need to live your life by the golden rule. Treat others as you wish to be treated, and that's it. That you can be as masculine as possible. You can be the Hulk. It doesn't matter. As long as you treat others kindly, that's what you're going to get back.
Well, I'd argue that being kind is part of being masculine, right?
It is.
I think that this is like a big part of the problem is that we conflate this like masculinity with being an asshole, and I don't think that that's necessarily like I don't think that that really jives with my definition of masculinity. You know?
I mean, there's a reason why I've actually repeatedly said that there's no such thing as toxic masculinity. There's only masculinity and assholes.
And not to take it into sort of a socio-political thing, I just feel like that's one thing that I think people get stories like your daughters and I think that those that gets lost. You know what I'm saying? Like in all of this, like, bravado and all this kind of like, I feel like compensation. It feels like a lot of compensation to me. But I mean, how are you doing, man? Like, how does one even maybe another lesson from this is just how do you cope with, hurt like that? How do you cope with having something tragic like that happen in your life, or are you still trying to figure it out?
So you cope with it day by day and hour by hour. There are still days, we're 3 years later, and there are still days that I will break down first thing in the morning. Right above my desk, I've got a picture of my daughter. And I sit and I talk to her. That's what part of my therapy is. I just sit and talk to her, tell her how, my day, I'm hoping my day goes, what I did the previous afternoon. And it does help. Talking to friends helps. Stay away from talking to family. I can say that because they're going through it as well. And all you're going to do is compound the issue. You try to talk to somebody that is as outside of it as possible, but somebody you can trust. That's the whole thing. In my little community, there was my wife and my children talked to the 2 therapists that are in this town. 2. And I went to go, at their convincing, I went to go sign up for a couple therapy sessions. They said, well, no, we're seeing your family. We can't talk to you. And I'm like, all right, I'll go talk to my buddies. But, like I said, I was alone with my thoughts for 18 months. I pretty much didn't speak. It crushed me because my daughter was the literal daddy's little girl. If I was out working on the pickup, she was out there. If I was going to go fishing, she wanted to go. If I was going hunting, she wanted to go. I mean, she was the quintessential, daddy's girl. And it was difficult, to say the least, to lose her. And then to find out later that she was in a domestic violent relationship with this gentleman and hiding it from me. That actually took more from me than anything. We didn't actually find that out until after his trial a year later.
That gets me into a question. He got like charged and incarcerated, right? Like everything, he was found guilty and
Yep.
Okay.
He was found guilty on all 5 counts.
Serving life?
No, as a matter of fact, they couldn't charge him with murder 1 or murder 2 because it wasn't premeditated. It was in the heat of the moment, as the prosecutor told me. They charged him with manslaughter. But the way Nebraska law worked is he actually got more mandated time for holding a firearm in the possession of a felony than he did for taking my daughter's life. He got a mandatory 20 years from that, but he got 20 to 30, which he'll probably serve out at the most 10 for involuntary manslaughter.
Man, I don't even know what to say to that.
Justice needs to be reformed. That's what I say.
For sure. That didn't make any sense to me.
My stance on justice is pretty harsh. I believe that the sweetest thing that you can have is life, and I think that even waking up, even in a 4-room cell, is too good for some people. Um, and I don't think that that burden should fall on the people to house these people who are irreparable.
I mean, the guy was a 3-time loser to begin with. He had already been a felon 3 times. And in here in the US, what happened to that law? Nobody ever gets prosecuted and put in prison for life for that. You're supposed to, after the 3rd time of violent felony, you're supposed to go away forever. They don't do that.
Because there may be some other people going through, if not the same situation, I would say maybe they are sensing that something may be happening. Are there any warning signs in hindsight that you could look at and say, and it's always tough to look back. 2020 is, hindsight is 2020, but
Hindsight showed us that she would never commit to coming home. She kept making excuses. And granted, this was during the whole coof thing, right? She'd been up there for a number of years, and she was working as a CNA at the nursing home up there. And she kept making up stuff that would make it believable, like she couldn't leave there or else she'd lose her job because she might be exposed, stuff like that. And we saw her, I think, twice, once or twice, I think, during the time that she left and then the time that she was gone. And the only reason we did that is because he was in the hospital here in Colorado and he wasn't there to control her.
right, man.
And, the funny part is everything that I taught her, that girl was strong as an ox. She was beautiful. She was kind. She was smart. She was strong as an ox, had the will of her mother, which was being stubborn. And somehow he beat her soul down.
Sometimes people are too pure and then they see too good in people that don't actually see that in themselves, and they give them chances they don't deserve. And I mean, you it's it's hard because you can't blame somebody for being that way, right? You can't blame somebody for being pure of heart, pure of soul, and wanting to give somebody the chance.
And I mean, sociopathic behavior. I mean, there's a reason these people get away with doing this kind of stuff because they're skilled at it. I mean, it's a skill set. So I won't say in my life, but there are people I've known where in hindsight I was like, man, like I think I dodged a bullet here. Like this person,
He would classify to me as a master manipulator.
Yeah.
He manipulated everybody in his life.
Yeah. Probably dark triad traits and that whole business, which I hope in the future more people can learn about and understand. But it's hard until you've faced it personally. It's really hard to understand what's going on. It's hard to understand the manipulation. And
I think that's really why it's important to have these conversations, because the average person doesn't get to see the after effects of it. Even when they see the news story, they see it and they don't see, like, what does the family go through? What is this young woman's father going through 3 years later after the fact? Like you never, the news doesn't follow up with you after, you know what I mean? So they'll never get to see this, and not that you'd ever want them to. So I think that, again, this is why this is so important.
my only question then would be for anybody out there who may be suspecting that something's wrong. I mean, what's the best, if you had to say, would it just be, hey, pick up that phone, make a phone call, say, hey, what's going on? I mean, or is there anything, can you do anything about it?
The only thing you can do, and I've actually talked to a number of other families that have gone through similar situations over the last few years, is try to convince that child, that person, that friend, whoever they are to you, to reach out for help. And if it takes it, do an intervention. Plan a fake vacation, do something. Get them away.
Damn, man. I'm sorry you had to go through, or still going through all this stuff. I guess, maybe we can talk about some other things, and you know, uh, go from there. Um, let's talk about. We were talking about sort of the state of affairs in the culture, shall we say? On your channel, you have a YouTube channel. You talk about a lot of different things. You know, you talk about gaming and 3D printing, but one thing you do talk about is politics. So maybe we can kind of get your take on what's going on in the culture first, and then we'll get into all the other fun stuff.
I will say this: I'm not red. I'm not blue. I'm a constitutionalist.
Same here. Same.
I'm not even closely. My beliefs aren't even closely related any longer with even the Libertarian Party. I am a pure constitutionalist, which means the founding laws of this land are the only thing that rules us. And I don't really care what people think about the current or former past presidents. I care about what their actions were and how they handled things. Our I can say that the current state of our country is healing. Do I agree with everything that our current president is doing? God, no. Do I think that he's doing some very good things? Yes. You know, we need accountability for all the money that's spent and then it's been squandered. And we need to stop spending money on countries that don't give a, excuse my French, crap about us.
You can say whatever you want. I mean,
there's so much that has gone on since January 20th, since the inauguration, that it's really hard to actually dive into everything. And I do believe that there is a bunch of smoke being thrown our way, like the release of some of the Epstein files and some of the release of the full release of the JFK files. It's to keep us occupied, not looking in another direction. You know, every time there's something big happening in the government, this is what government does. This is a pattern. I've seen it since the 80s. So,
well, I mean, it is just the idea. I forgot whose tweet it was. I think Crystal Ball, and it was her tweet. And you know, with all this Tesla stuff going on, they're like, you know, blowing up Tesla car. I mean, it's like, and then she's over here arguing that, you know, we need. I don't know. I don't even know what her argument is. It's like, look, it's destruction of property. Like, what are we even talking about? Like, oh, what it was is that, you know, we're talking about taking these criminals to El Salvador, which is its own weird thing that people like. I don't get it all. It's like, these are not citizens. It doesn't matter. Like, if you're not a citizen and you're causing any trouble, I mean, the government can do what it wants. You know what I'm saying? That's the deal. You know what I'm saying? But she was saying that, oh, we need to, you know, these criminals that were taken to, or no, she was saying that anybody who's like done anything to a Tesla getting scooped up and taken to El Salvador, which, I mean, yeah, if you're a citizen, sure, you need to be prosecuted in American court. But I'm just saying, like, it's just this weird thing. It's like, why are you even worrying about that? There are people blowing up Tesla. There's domestic terrorism occurring on our own, like at Tesla stores and on Teslas. Like, innocent people that own Teslas are getting, you know, Nazi symbols and, you know, spray painted. And I saw one woman was parked and a dude in a hood with like the face, you know, whatever, got out of his car and was like lecturing her. I'm like, I'll tell you what, if I own a Tesla and you get out of your car and you're approaching mine, watch out. Like, it's not going to be pretty. You know, something's going to happen. I'm not going to sit there and take your fucking lecture. Anyway, sorry. I get heated about that. And she's over here talking about how, like, you know, I don't know she's even talking about. It's like, this is terrorism, like actual terrorism.
Well, it's like, you know, you have the mainstream media out there going, you know, the summer of love. Oh, that was just protest. People died. Billions and billions of dollars in property destruction. That's called domestic terrorism. When you start destroying individuals and their livelihood, that's terrorism. Just saying. And yeah, do I denounce the two things, very small things that some idiots on the right have done? Yes. But there was also, like, on January 6th, there was thousands of people that walked very peacefully and didn't cause any trouble.
Yeah, they just went on a quick congressional tour, as far as
I mean, I'm pretty sure that tour was guided by police officers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the video. I'm pretty sure that happened.
So I don't know. Like,
I mean, you could just throw, you know, instead of like Ferrari throwing the Ferrari luggage in the back, you'd have, you know, the Tesla go bag.
little pepper ball gun, You know,
Yeah, the riot gun, Tesla riot gun. Well, the flamethrower, they already made one. So
Well, yeah, he did. Yeah.
I get one of those frequency weapons. Put one of them bad boys on a Cybertruck, bro.
some friendly feds, guided them throughout that entire experience. So I hope we find out.
it's never the answer to destroy people's property, hurt people, and also just to be very clear, like you're not harming Elon Musk by destroying some private citizen's Tesla, which he's already been paid for. In fact, they're probably going to double down and get another Tesla. You're likely padding his pocket.
And the funny thing is, there's a good chance that they're a Democrat.
Right. It's an electric vehicle.
There's a good chance that the person driving the Tesla is a Democrat. So they're going to be like, what the hell is going on? And they're going to start voting Republican. So it's literally just like a death trap for themselves. You know, people are going to be like, this is crazy.
I know 5 people here in Colorado that are personal friends of mine that own the Cybertrucks. They're all Democrats. Because out here where I live, you couldn't catch anybody driving one of those things because you would run out of fuel. We're 3 hours from Denver.
Yeah, they're electric vehicles. Like Elon was their, like Elon and Donald both were their love childs for many a year. So it all doesn't make sense to me. And then the people who are running around firebombing buildings and spraying swastikas on things are telling me they're the good guy. Like I don't know. It's just not making sense to me in my head.
Part of my suspicion is that the people running around blowing up stuff and spray painting may not necessarily be actual Democrats, if you know what I mean. Might actually be some, some subverters. Some people like who's really mad about Doge? Is it really the average Democrat that's mad about Doge, or is it the people that are getting their money taken away that are mad about it?
Oh, one of the more famous ones that I've read recently was a Reddit post that threatened that it was actually Mercedes and Jaguar that were trying to ruin Tesla stock for their electric vehicle offerings.
Oh man, I never even thought about that.
And I'm going, really? That sounds dumb.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think that it doesn't make sense. I think it doesn't make sense.
This is the opportune moment if you're going to do it. That's all I'm saying.
If you think about it, it could make a little sense, because if they politicize Tesla enough and people are afraid to buy Teslas because their damage is going to get destroyed or whatever, then there will be less people buying them. It's a silly thing, but
yeah, but people are going to buy less of all EVs because they're going to notice that shit, those batteries are super flammable. My whole car's destroyed if one little fire starts. Like you can't put the fire out and fix something. It's cooked. Your car's going up in flames. Now all EVs sales are hurt. I don't know. To me, it doesn't save anybody.
Well, I mean, you can't accuse any of these individuals committing these acts, no matter who they're paid from or if they're doing it of their own free will, of having any sort of common sense.
I don't know if you've seen this guy, John Shrek McPhee. He was on Joe Rogan. But he has a video, maybe we'll put it in the show notes. He has a video on what to do to fight or how to like navigate through crowds and riots and stuff like that. Where essentially he, has a go bag. He has a quick gas mask he can flip on. He's got orange smoke and he's got orange bear spray. So you throw the smoke down, and then when people are confused, you go and bear spray them real quick. And then he has like these ties that you can tie them up if you need to. And I think maybe what Elon, if you're listening, man, I know you watch the show. Don't lie. If you're watching, I think automatic smoke bomb detectors and then bear spray, spraying out the side of the Cybertruck. That's just my suggestion. You don't have to take it. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure you got brilliant engineers there at Tesla.
Add a whole new meaning to Sentry mode. Oh, did you see that? I think it was in Poland or something like that.
In Cuba, right? Didn't they use sound weapons?
But I know like recently there was a protest in Eastern Europe. It was like a big Christian protest. And then they split it up with like a sound weapon. And people were freaking out, eardrums bleeding. And
it was pretty crazy. It was like a thick crowd of people just like parted really quickly. Thousands of people parted really quickly. So
every Christian in the country was there if they could make it. Like it's insane. I've never seen a crowd like it.
All right. Well, let's put those on the Teslas. Moving on to gaming. I don't know if there's a game that has sound weapons on it and you're driving it around, but you are a gamer, you are a streamer, Captain. So let's get into that, man, because I imagine you're of a similar age to me. When did you first start gaming?
In a casual sense or professional sense?
Let's say casual. Like, did you start with Atari, Pong, Nintendo?
I literally started with Pong, and then a friend of mine's mother gifted me my friend's Atari 2600 because he wouldn't do what he was told. Then after that, it was Nintendo and Sega. And
Well, what was the? Do you remember the first game?
first game I ever played?
Well, the first game on the Atari that you were gifted.
Oh God, Gattaca.
Gattaca. There we go. And the box cover art for Gattaca. The box cover art used to be so dope, man. Even back then, it was dope. As a little kid, seeing that stuff and like just active. And then now, as I've gotten older, we're working on some things, and I've been looking at old game art from the '80s, and I'm like, man, this is still fire. Like, what happened? This stuff's still fire. It has that, it has like that cool like '80s Tron grid type art, and then it had like,
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just a nostalgia trip for this boomer here, but
And now I wish I would have kept all of those old consoles and games, because I watched a Whatnot stream the other day, and they were selling these things for enormous sums of money. I was like, there was an original Pac-Man cartridge that went for like $4,000.
my brother's one of those people. He goes around the country looking for old CRV TVs that can play the games because he wants to play the games as they originally were, and he's willing to shell out the bucks to do that, and get in there and
So Keithan has an old school video game collection.
oh gosh, he has old school video games, and he'll drive. I mean, I went with him one time. I should tell this. I don't know. Sorry, I'm going to tell the story. I went with him one time, and I didn't know I was being taken. He was like, "Hey, I got to go do this thing. You mind helping me out?" There, I thought, okay, yeah, whatever, And then we show up, and there's a humongous old school TV that's like 500 pounds because those old TVs are heavy, man. They're not. They are so heavy. I couldn't believe how heavy this thing was, and it was me and him like yeah, I almost broke my back or something doing this thing.
Or you remember the ones that used to sit on the floor in the wood cabinet with the speakers on the side? Like those are.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, yeah. I mean, but I get it. I mean, I definitely have a soft spot in my heart for that. So,
That was the old school stuff.
So what do you play now?
I graduated from the consoles to PC gaming when that first, started originating, and Wolfenstein 3D. I got real heavy into Quake, and then I actually went playing LAN tournaments with Quake, and got to meet a lot of really good people in that. And then I went to Counter-Strike 1.6, and then I stopped. I was playing professionally there for a while and did fairly well. And then PUBG came around in the Arma 3 mod.
all right. So this is where, at least for me, these guys know you're gonna lose me after GoldenEye. I have not played games, and I feel like I've missed so much, dude. Like I feel like there's one we were talking about. Like I should just play games that everybody's played, like the original GTA or like.
Well, funny enough, you say that. The PUBG, Player Unknown's Battlegrounds, is actually celebrating its 8th year anniversary this year as its own game, not a mod. So that's actually really cool. I started playing it, when it first came out.
You still play?
Oh God, yes. I just played yesterday for 4.5 hours on stream. So
I love that game.
I'm actually a PUBG partner. I got partnered in 2020, and I think it was just for sympathy's sake, because having an old dude gaming was cool. Oh yes.
So I gotta ask, bro, how did you end up on that guy's video? Because like I don't know, it didn't make sense to me. To me, when like I feel like I came upon it pretty quick, and you already had followers and viewers and stuff.
So, okay, here's the story of how Kind Penguin, whatever the guy's actual name is, I don't even know anymore. There's so many different handles. But the story was he apparently found me streaming. Now, he said I was streaming with 0 viewers. I hate to contradict him, that wasn't true, but okay. I actually looked at the analytics and I can show it. I had like 14 people over on YouTube, and like there wasn't that many on Twitch that day. It was like 5, but it wasn't 0. But he came in and just started asking some questions, and they were just innocent questions, and we were just talking back and forth while I was doing my thing. And you know, all of a sudden, there's this huge donation that comes through. Now, I haven't told you any of the backstory of financials or anything like that. I'll just say I'm broke. I haven't worked in 4 years due to medical issues, but it was a godsend. And I didn't expect anything else after that, right? You know, he said, after that, he goes, thanks for the great content. I'll talk, we'll see you guys later. I mean, I'm just in shock that, I got a donation that day. The largest donation I think I ever got was like $100, and that was from a friend of mine.
Can you say the rough amount or the range amount?
$500.
Okay.
So a week goes by. Well, it was about 10 days. About 10 days went by after that stream, and I started getting DMs on TikTok and Instagram and X, and I mean, just everywhere. And it started off on TikTok because that's where he first posted it. And then, I had 1,700 roughly, followers, because I'd never really pushed TikTok at that point. And the next day there was 3,000. The day after that, there was 10,000. A week later, there was 15,000. Now I'm at 21,000 a month later, month and a week later. I had 1,400 followers over on Twitch. Now I'm at 30,000. The real funny one was Instagram. I've never used Instagram for almost anything other than, send my mother pictures. And I had 53 followers, and now I have 7,000. And I was like, what happened here? And people just kept telling me you're going viral. And I'm like, from what? Until finally somebody said, here's the link. And even through today, if I turn, OBS on and let you guys hear the alerts, all you'd hear is ding, 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 ding. It's just constant. And I'm so, I've said this a lot. It would have never happened if my daughter was still here with me. But being as it's not, I'm going to take the blessing I was given and I'm going to use it for good. So, yes, I love my gaming content. I love showing 3D printing. I love doing all these other things, the homesteading and all that. My biggest push is just pushing kindness and preventing domestic violence. Nobody should ever have to do what my family and I have had to go through. And the worst part of it is since this happened during, the whole Coof thing, we were actually expecting to get a phone call from the hospital up there going, your daughter passed away due to illness, since she worked in an old folks home. That I could have taken a whole lot better. But the method that was chosen to end her existence on Earth, and the worst part is I've actually seen photos that I've never let my wife or any of my children or any of my friends ever see, because they can't live with that nightmare. I won't allow it. Is that toxic masculinity? Just tying 2 segments together. Sorry.
I'll be honest with you though, I wouldn't say that it's toxic masculinity, but I do think it's the masculine thing to do. That's where you carry that burden for them. You know what I mean? And I mean, cheers to you for that, bro.
That's the way I was raised. You protect women and children, even if it is from themselves.
Obviously, you would never want any of this to happen to you. But I guess maybe on some level, if you can take that and be of service to others, and help others, maybe there's I don't know. I mean,
There has to be a positive that comes out of it, and I will make sure that happens. In her memory, there has to be a positive that comes out of it, because I won't let her loss of life go in vain. And I mean, I could go on for hours telling you guys the actual plans I have, for a foundation I want to get set up. That's going to take time, and those plans aren't fully set yet. Needless to say, it's to protect women and children and other domestic violence victims in a way that has never been done before.
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, I mean, who knows? You doing that, you never know who out there is going to be saved. You know what I'm saying? It might just take that one little thing. Just you know, maybe watching this video that we're putting up and somebody is in it, or they know someone who's in it, and it's just that little bit that they need to go, you know what, I gotta pick up the phone, or I gotta go see what's going on. Or
If I help one individual, one lady, even one man in that situation, my best friend, him and his wife, both military, she beat him because he was manly enough not to strike back. She beat him severely. He finally divorced her. But so it's not just, one side or the other. It's if I can prevent one child from getting hit, one woman, one guy, then it's worth it. If I can help more, I'm ecstatic.
yeah, I wonder if we had someone on the show, Bill Corbett. I don't know if you're familiar with that name. Military vet, but yeah, he talks about the other side of it, and it talks about financial abuse and those types of things. Maybe after the show, if you're interested, if you're open to it, we could connect you too. But because he's doing the same thing, he has his own foundation and stuff like that, so maybe he could be a resource. But
Yeah, I think it's super commendable, right? Because like not every situation is going to have a silver lining, but you can definitely create a silver lining from that situation. So yeah, I definitely think that it's commendable. I think that that's great that you're doing this.
I got a question for you. Are you I'm not sure if you touched on this at all. Are you religious, or what's your faith look like?
So I'm non-denominational because I have a hard time believing in organized religion due to the fraud that happens. Um, I've seen it with my own two eyes, literally every time I go to a church. So it's all my own personal belief, but I have my faith in God.
has it been challenged in this situation?
Oh yeah.
What allows you to keep the faith?
The first thing was the first time my wife almost passed away. She got real sick with congestive heart failure, and I offered to trade mine for hers. They told me to say goodbye to her that night. She spent 9 days in the hospital, came home. The last 3 years have been actually the most challenging of that. I lost my daughter. I lost my brother-in-law. I lost two of my best friends 2 years ago. And then this year, no, three of my best friends 2 years ago. And this year I lost two people that were good acquaintances that I knew very well, but they weren't real friends. You know what I'm saying? And these are all young people, same age as me or younger. Perfectly healthy, nothing wrong with them, other than my brother-in-law. He was older than me, and he had liver disease. So, but that challenges anybody's faith. You lose that many people that quickly. But what keeps it going is the fact that miracles keep happening in my life. Every time that there's, we run a little bit short, something happens, and all of a sudden we have that money, or the bill gets paid. And I'm not talking stupid things like a credit card bill, because nobody cares about that. But like, if we were going to, lose power, and I'm $20 short, I'll find a $20 bill somewhere. It's just uncanny. I am seriously, it is uncanny.
I feel it, man. I mean, it's been a rough couple of years for myself, and at least this last year for sure. You know, got married, wedding was expensive, no family support. We bought a house, and every time, you know, we just get close, and then something happens, and you know, someone helps. There's something that comes, and then you know, just on to the next day, and keep pushing forward.
Well, that's all you can do in this world is keep pushing forward, because the moment you stop, well, you stop living.
I'm waiting for that Elon check to come out of nowhere. Where you at, Elon? Just waiting, hoping that he shows up.
I'm hoping. I ain't waiting, because I don't think it's coming.
Dang it! When I'm gonna get a check in the mail?
We'll probably get a $10 YouTube check before we come even close.
Elon, I know you're watching. I know we don't have the YouTube set up to take donations, but if you want to, you know, write us a check real quick for that suggestion we did earlier.
Use your bot to scrape my profile. It has my Doge wallet. You can send it there, Elon. I know you like Doge.
Are you sure you want him to send that to Doge?
Yeah. I'm gonna liquidate it immediately. I'm gonna dump the price, and it's okay. I'm gonna liquidate immediately.
The moment I send $20 to Doge, it inevitably just goes, okay, $5. All right, I'm done doing that.
I did want to bring up something, you know, it's a little lighter, but it's probably an important issue as well, which is what are we going to do about simping and selling gaming? You made a video. You said, hey, y'all need to stop simping. Doesn't matter how good looking these ladies be. All right. You got to stop simping. You got to start being gentlemen. Let's zoom out. What is your take on simping and incel stuff in the gaming community? Because you know there was the whole Gamergate thing, which was this whole weird thing. You've had this battle, like the most recent example of this weird battle with, like, I don't even play this game, like Assassin's Creed, whatever, coming out. Everybody's gay, everybody's trans, and nothing. You know, I don't get whatever. I'm just saying, like, it just seems like there's a lot of agenda pushing in gaming. So I think part of this rift that we talked about earlier between, you know, men and women, all this stuff is coming from these types of things. So maybe you could speak on that, give your perspective on that.
Sure. So I have the belief that I don't care what you are, what you do, as long as you're decent about it. You know, not like they do in a lot of the pride parades going down Main Street with thousands of children watching. Any parent would actually take their children to those is beyond me. But that's their prerogative and whatever. But when I go to play a video game, especially a game like Assassin's Creed or Baldur's Gate or any of those, you know, any game out there, you go out there to get out of reality. I don't care if you're going to have gay characters in them. I don't care if you even make it primary character. Don't push an agenda. And sadly, in today's society, and this is just really that. So, backstory on this: I initially went to college in Trinidad, Colorado. If anybody knows that area, they know where Raton, New Mexico is. And Dr. Bieber, whatever his name was the leading sex change doctor in the world forever. That's 10 miles away from where I went to school in college. So all of us college students got real up close and personal. Thankfully, we were smart enough not to take anybody home. But so if people can live their lives as an adult the way they want to, the problem is in these games, you have children playing them. Agendas should not be pushed on children. And I don't care whose agenda it is. The only agenda that's acceptable is 1, the golden rule: treat others as you wish to be treated, and 2, societal rules.
That's like no murder. No stealing.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, basic shit, right? Like the Bill of Rights. You know, I mean, most games I imagine are. You said maybe GTA is like good versus evil. You know, bad people doing things that are oppressive. You're there to fight against that. I mean, generally speaking, I would say, right? I mean, on some level.
Or fighting on the same level. Or in a game, though, it's a fantasy. And the thing that parents need to understand is they need to. My parents taught me very well the difference between what's real and what's not real. That was the reason when I was a child, I could go to R-rated movies. I'd have a signed permission slip from my parents because I was taught this is real, this is fantasy. My kids were also taught the same thing. My kids are somewhat normal. My 3 boys are all introverts, but they're somewhat normal. The thing about a lot of the kids, especially some of my kids' friends, they bring them over sometimes, and they'll go play these games, and these kids just act weird. Like this is reality, and I'm like, no, 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 no. This is not reality. You are not an animal. The animal's in the video game. You are not an animal. You are not. I don't even know. There's people ask me all the time why I don't watch or read anime. It's because it's anime. I watch cartoons. I don't watch anime. There's a vast difference there. Because to me, there's also in a lot of, especially the earlier anime from the number of years ago, there was a lot of agendas being pushed in that. Boys that were dressed as girls, and 11-year-old characters with Dolly Parton size hooters.
Yeah, over sexualization is a huge thing in like the anime world, right?
Exactly. Over sexual. I was trying to think of that word and I couldn't get it out. Over sexualization needs to stop in all realms. I mean, my avatar in PUBG is a female. The reason why is because back in the day, female avatars had a smaller hitbox when you were shooting at them in video games. Today, that's not the case, but people are just used to me having a female avatar. So I leave it that way. And because I'm a PUBG partner, I'm asked to represent, all the new skins and stuff that come out. So there's some things I refuse to put on that thing. I'm like, no.
I guess what I wonder about with, I agree with you on the agenda thing. It's one of those things where it's like, what does this have to do with? For me, it's about the art. It's kind of like, okay, there. It's like you have this piece of art, and then if it feels like it's being shoved into it for no reason other than you're just trying to push something, that's where I have an offense. I'm offended by it violating storytelling. Like if it's integral to the story and it's actually something that is thematically, important to the story to express, cool. But yeah, but if it's like you're doing this, like Assassin's Creed has a certain thing that it is, and then also it's kind of like the Bond thing. Like Bond is a dude, all right? And look, I'm Indian. Look, I want my Bond to be white, all right? That's what he is. He been white. Okay, like sorry. I'm saying like he's a white English dude.
Yeah, but it's okay, right? Like it's okay for characters to just be these characters. But like again, I think that it's back to the point of it being fantasy, right? So like for games like Baldur's Gate and Dragon Age, and we've already had a way to get around this for time immemorial. The characters like elves and dwarves and they're all bisexual. They sleep with everybody. They always sleep with anybody. It's never been a thing where like, oh yeah, minotaurs, all of them. For all like in Dragon Age before this new one, like you could sleep with any of the characters. You could do with whatever. It was just normal because it's fantasy. Some people like to take fantasy there. But it's when you start limiting it to those things where it's like, well, now the guy can't sleep with the woman. He can only sleep with the guy. He can't be big and buff. But he can have as big of a belly as possible. The woman can't have curvy hips, but she can be big and no boobs. Like, why are you limiting people's fantasies to what you look like in real life? That's where it becomes strange to me.
That's one of the things that I've constantly thought about is like, it's fantasy. Leave it if that's part of the lore and that's part of the actual storyline and gameplay that's been there since the beginning. Leave it alone. But there also needs, and I hate saying this because I hate censorship beyond measure. There either needs to be some parental responsibility taken, or there needs to be a control mechanism there for children that locks those things out until they reach a certain age. Now we know that doesn't work for social media because my daughter had a Facebook account at 11.
Man, don't tell me that.
I monitored the living snot out of it, but she did.
That freaks me out, man. I don't have any kids, but I think about that on occasion. I'm like, because like back in our day, as young gentlemen, as you would say, if you wanted to see some, man, you'd have to put in work. You'd have to have a plan. You'd have to be like, all right, like who's gonna go in the gas station and act like they're a certain age so we can get that Playboy, which is like, man, woo wee. Get Carmen Electra. It's like, oh my goodness. Now it's like,
you would ask me about the whole stop simping thing, and I just remembered something. The whole reason I put that video up is I was actually in a friend of mine's chat, and they were just treating her so badly. And uh, I mean, I don't know if you guys, if you've heard of Kat Conti. She plays various games. I played PUBG with her, for a while, a long time ago. We've stayed in contact once in a great million moons, but they were just treating her like crap in a stream. I mean, they were blatantly coming out going, "Show your boobs," and I'm like, or when she'd get up, they go, "Bend over." And I'm like, "Come on, you assholes! Seriously, who are we talking to?" No, I actually looked a couple of these people up. These are full-grown adults that should know better. Their parents should have beat their butts when they were younger, a lot more. And this is what happens when we teach children that there is no consequences for their actions. At least no harsh consequences. Because, and then I visited some other streams, and just for grins, because I never visit any of these things because I have no need to. I'm married. I went and visited Amaranth when she was still on Twitch before she got banned. And people were treating her nicer. But they were also giving her uber amounts of money to stay 3/4 undressed. And I'm going, okay, so I didn't know what the actual term simp was at the time. I had to go look it up, and I did some research, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to create a video because I don't know if you guys remember, but back in the 1920s, 1930s, even during the Depression and everything, all men wore suits, all women wore dresses. Now, I'm not saying we have to go to that point, but propriety is one thing. Showing off to impress is another thing as well. Looking the part of a Colfax hooker is a whole different ballgame. You're begging for bad attention. And at the same time, it's on us as men to teach ourselves and our young boys to not overly sexualize what anybody looks like.
it is kind of a conundrum in a way, though. It's kind of like, okay, if you're young, I mean, I can't imagine. We didn't have any of this stuff when we were growing up, right? So now it's like,
So do you think that's the problem, though? Is that you didn't have it? So, like, let me just play devil's advocate for a second, right? Like, young men growing up in Europe, they grow up seeing boobs, ass, vagina, like it's open. It's not like whatever, you see dicks everywhere. It's very like nudity is not shunned or hidden as this like perverse thing. And they don't have the same lust towards it. They don't have the same, like, as if when you see this, now you feel like an arousal. It's just kind of normal. The naked body is just human.
I think that they probably do have the same arousal, but it's also done in more private settings. Because like in France, I actually just read an article a couple of months back about a French bistro that was shut down that had a burlesque in it, a fully nude burlesque that allowed activities that weren't legal. You know, yeah. Do these kids grow up with it? I don't know. I mean, I don't live there, so I mean, we hear about it, but I've talked to people and they're not. They say, well, it's not on television all the time. Okay, so where do these things? Where do these? Where does this come from?
Well, like for example, like in Europe, a Vogue ad will show nipple or not, like it doesn't necessarily hide stuff. And again, like same with their TV. Like maybe now they're more so censored, but even when I was growing up, like in Europe, the TV shows were a lot different.
Yeah, I don't know. That could be part of it. I think the part that we have is it's not as sexualized. It's not pronounced as a sexual act there. It is here.
I guess my perspective is sort of exploitation. Being able to identify exploitation and understand exploitation is kind of where I land on it. It's like because that's what I worry about. It's like you were saying before when we were kids. I remember my dad sitting me down when we were kids. Like I watched RoboCop way too early. All right, with my dad. And the only part he got offended about was when they're sorting coke off the ladies. You know what I'm saying? Like he didn't even get offended by the violence because he's an immigrant. I guess he saw some crazy shit growing up. So, but I'm just saying, like there was somebody there to sit down and go, look, these are Hollywood movies. This is fantasy. They're not real. There's somebody behind. He would love to watch behind the scenes with us because he liked to see how they made the thing and how they put things together. You know what I'm saying? So that's my worry, is that we're living sort of in a society where, especially with like divorce rates up and that kind of thing, that there's not a person in the home who is going to tell someone like, hey, like this is fantasy, this is reality. And if you're coming from a home that is maybe unstable and you're going to these games because that's the one thing you have that's safe, that's like comfortable, that's, if the world's crazy, this is where you can escape to. And then that world that you're going into, there's no one there to be like, hey, like, there's a whole, like, okay, you want to get on the Amaranth stream, cool. But if you go on there and there's no guidance to say anything, then it's kind of like, oh, well, this is what a relationship with a woman is like. It's, I'm going to send you money and you're going to do what I say, which is like a distortion of real relationships. It's like, well,
Is it?
It's pretty much exactly what I told my boys. When they were younger, I said, I've told them all, there is a way to appreciate beauty in all of its forms, from clothes to boot naked, without looking like an asshole and looking and sounding like a creep. I mean, there is a way to do that, and that was, one of the things that, like I said, that inspired me to eventually, after watching a number of these, other content creators and streams, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try to make a video on this because I haven't found anything like it on YouTube.
Yeah, it's either like Super Dunk, like whatever podcast, or where they're just dunking on chicks, which I have an issue with too, because like I don't not every chick's a freaking Deezy. Don't do it to me, man. Not every chick's an OF, just trying to get money. You know what I'm saying? Like,
hey, you know what? And I got no problem with these girls or guys, whatever you want to call, whatever you want to do, trying to exploit themselves for money. The economy is hard enough today.
Yeah, as an adult, that's your prerogative, right? Like but exploiting yourself, but like to exploit other people is where the problem comes in.
Yeah, and to exploit children. The content creators don't push for enough, preventative measures from platforms to keep kids out of these things. And the worst part is on like YouTube and Twitch, we can see our demographics. We know how old that person's watching is. all of my stuff is marked for adults only. I still get 20 to 25% of my viewers are children under 16.
And then how many of the people that are just right at the cusp, like where they're like 18 to 21, are just faking 18 to 21, right?
Or even faking 16.
Exactly. Because when you're a kid, you're not like, hey, maybe I'll fake that I'm like 30, because faking the like 19 probably, you know what I mean? Like it seems obvious. You don't think that. You're like, I'll just fake that I'm legal.
I'm getting anxiety. I don't even have kids. I'm getting anxiety over here with this kind of stuff. I hope I have. I guess I hope I have sons. No offense. I just hope I have sons, because if I have daughters, holy crap.
That shotgun's going to get some use. Is that what you're saying?
I threatened 2 of my daughter's boyfriends with a shotgun. One of them I went hunting with a couple days later. At his suggestion, I'm like, oh God, I hate this. Because he had a nicer shotgun than me.
I'm gonna stick with the bear spray. You do something wrong, you getting sprayed in the eyes. We'll figure it out from there.
I'll just tell him I got these hands and I'm not afraid to use them.
I'll just tell him, yo, you mess with my daughter, I'm gonna get Deezy over here to bring those hands in here. My hands are too pretty, man. Come on now. Look at that. Let's talk about 3D printing, because this is fascinating. So I remember many moons ago, I was living in LA, and a friend of mine was doing 3D printing for a physical fitness product, and got like his prototype made in 3D printing and all that. And at that time, that was like, I don't know how long ago that was, many years. I was like, oh man, the future. And then I don't know, from my perspective, it feels like 3D printing just kind of like disappeared. Like nobody, maybe because what's his name, Cody Wilson, was making guns with him. So I don't know if the media decided like, yeah, let's just not talk about 3D printing anymore, because otherwise 2A is going to be unenforceable, or unbannable or whatever. So when did 3D printing land on your radar, and how do you see it in terms of its potential impact?
It actually ran on my radar about 10 years ago. I actually bought a kit printer. You actually had to either CNC or wood cut, all the pieces out, and it had, linear rails or just solid stainless steel rods. And it was a literal piece of junk. And then it was about, what was it? 2 or 3 years later, Creality had come out with like the Ender 3, first budget, printer. I actually still have it. It's the one in the center right there. It's upgraded to all heck, but I bought that thing for, I think it was like $189 and put it together. And I started learning how to use it and became fascinated with the hobby. So I bought a few more, and then I bought a few more. And eventually I wanted to actually set up a print farm. Well, that was a bad idea because I didn't have a business plan for it, and that was a big waste of money. So I got rid of the rest of those and kept what I had. And now I'm buying, as I can afford them, and building, more printers. But I started trying to figure out what I could use them for other than, little tchotchkes like the little printed dragons and dragon eggs and, you know, toys for children and things for your shelf. So I started experimenting with different types of filaments, the stuff that's stronger, stuff that's mixed with carbon fiber, stuff like that. And it wasn't up until recently when I came back to, content creation, which was what, 10 months ago now, that I started thinking about, what, I want to redo the Homestead series that I tried to do like 6, 7 years ago. But I want to incorporate modern technology with it. Arduino boards, Raspberry Pis, automation type stuff. Well, then I started thinking about it. You know what? I live out in the middle of nowhere. We have a Tractor Supply and an Ace Hardware. That's what we have for stores. And they don't always have what you need. So why don't I start teaching people how to design and make the things that they need? Um, hydroponic tower. And because I realized that not everybody lives in a more rural setting, even in town like I do. So I started figuring out ways to, do container gardening, indoors, outdoors, in the most urban of settings. I have a friend of mine who lives 15th Street, in the tech center in Denver, and he lives on the 28th floor. He homesteads from his balcony. I mean, and some of it's in his apartment, but so he and I we got to talk, and he started giving me some ideas, and um, that whole thing is on the horizon, and I'm trying to finish designs and get things printed and save money to buy filament, because guess what, carbon fiber is not cheap.
Let's backtrack a little bit. So let's say and that makes total sense to me. If make the tools that you want to make for yourself and to do things like that makes a lot of sense. I guess my question would be like, where do you start with 3D printing? What equipment would you recommend people get? And I know you made a video about it, so we'll put that in the show notes. But yeah, where do you start with 3D printing if you're interested in it?
And what would be like the best budget-friendly printer?
No, that's exactly where I would start right now. Is there are 2 printers on the market today. There will be a third in about 2 months from one of the same manufacturers. You have a company by the name of FlashForge that creates the Adventurer 5M. That printer sells on Amazon all day long, anywhere from like $260 to $280. That's what that printer right there is, the one on the end. It's solid. It just works. It is single color only. Multicolor stuff costs money. Just throwing that out there. The other one is called the Elegoo Centauri product line. The Centauri Carbon, which is a fully enclosed printer, and then the Centauri. The Carbon is $300, and the Centauri was recently announced to be $200. It's literally just like that printer right there, but for $200. They're super easy to use. They come with super simple slicing software. You don't have to know everything that I've learned to do basic prints. And the rest of it you can get from watching YouTube videos and reading.
So what would you say is the best filament?
Well, see, that would be a hard one, because I like so many different types of filament manufacturers, and I'm trying to get sponsorships with them. So I got to be very careful about that.
Okay, let's say I was making figurines. Let's be specific. Let's say I was going to be making figurines. What would you use?
So if you're like, you just trying to 3D print figurines using one of these printers, I personally would choose like the Polymaker Panachrome, the Panachroma series, the just standard PLAs. I mean, it's inexpensive, and there is a lot of colors, including rainbows and matte colors, and yeah. Elegoo makes good stuff. I mean, there's some really budget-friendly PLA out there, like Sunlu, that I use, not just used, but I mostly use it for prototyping.
And do you recommend that somebody uses the software that comes with the printer, or do you have a software you prefer?
Initially, probably. Once you start learning, then get into the more advanced, like the open source softwares like Prusa Slicer or Orca Slicer, and start learning how to use those. But those are way more in depth than the standard softwares that come with the printer, especially in FlashForge and Elegoo's cases.
And do you have videos for like beginners and stuff on how to use that, or do you have somebody you recommend?
Working on that. They actually, both companies actually have videos up on their websites.
Okay, cool.
So FlashForge, and then Elegoo, Eleegoo, Elegoo. Yeah.
I saw that you have made some things, put it on Etsy. The thing I thought that was super cool were the dragons. Can you probably talk about that? How those came about?
Those were a file. I've always liked dragons, and then one of my wife's friends, she comes into my chat. She calls my mom, my wife, mom, and me, dad. She's like another adopted child. We've got like 18 adopted children at this point, but um, she collects dragons. She's like, can you print me a dragon? So I went searching for crystal dragons and dragons in general. I found those and I printed them out, gave one to her, and then she started promoting. And I'm like, well, I should put those up on my Etsy, since there's different types of licenses for model files. There's licenses that allow you to sell commercially, and there's licenses that don't, or what they call share alike, is you just give attribution to the person that made it. So, and in this case, I actually contacted the gentleman that actually designed the model, and he said, yeah, go ahead, sell it. I'm like, all right, cool. I do that with everything just to be sure.
So there are there certain websites and communities? Again, I'm totally ignorant on 3D printing and what's going on now, but there are certain sites and communities and places. Where do you recommend somebody, if they want to kind of deep dive and meet other people in the sort of 3D printing community? Like, what would be the best place to go?
Believe it or not, one of those is Reddit. The 3D printing subreddits are actually pretty good. YouTube channels have the most welcoming 3D printing communities. Like my buddy Maker's Mind Nexus. He is a literal repair genius on these things, and he can walk you through fixing pretty much any issue. There's Lee Marie 3D. There's a bunch of different, I'm just throwing off the ones that I've actually literally watched today and yesterday. But I watch a lot of 3D printing content. When it comes to actual websites and so forth, like discussion forums and boards and stuff like that, printables.com is a really good one. Thangs.com, THANGS.com. And then there's a Google search engine for model files called Yeggi, YEGGI. And you can literally type anything in there and find it. It's almost guaranteed it's there.
With the 3D printing, actually creating the model, the schematic, right? Can you use something like Blender or one of these 3D design platforms, and then you can design something in there, and then that can be something that the 3D printer can then use to print?
Yeah, absolutely. Modeling software, especially sculpting softwares like Blender, is what's mostly used for caricatures, busts, anything that's animal, human, monster type.
And I can use Blender to slice it?
Oh, well, you export it as a DFX file, and then you can import that into your slicer.
Oh, okay.
And then the slicing software will actually cut it up properly for you. I do, as much as I show fun things like skulls and dragons and yada yada yada, I don't do any of that because I don't know how to use Blender. I'm an engineer, so I use Autodesk Fusion 360 to design mechanical parts.
I was going to say more like an AutoCAD software.
Literally an AutoCAD software. That's exactly what I use.
Got it. Okay. So yes, as long as it's a program that can render something in 3D, you can potentially use it with a 3D printing software.
As long as you can export DFX files.
Well, no, it's not just DFX files. That's just an example.
OBJs and FBXs and stuff work as well?
Yes, OBJs and all of those types of all of the common types of modeling files can be imported into a slicer.
Okay, cool.
Except for the proprietary ones.
All right, guys. Well, now we know how to design bongs for 3D printing.
Well, I don't know about smoking out of filament, but what I will say is that I've made.
I'm not sure I'd do that, but
yeah, but I've made Kanagar molds out of 3D. Like I've 3D printed Kanagar molds, so I know that works.
I have actually printed a lot of designed and printed a lot of smoke cases.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Now I'm starting to see the use case with all this stuff. uh,
The one guy who doesn't smoke it.
Hey, I can't, so I'm actually allergic. So
Oh no, that breaks my heart. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna say that from now on because these guys rag on me all the time.
all I said is I couldn't smoke it.
How we feeling about the future, man? I know. There's been tragedy with you and all that, but I mean, is there? Are we going? Are we elevating, or do we have? Are we going downhill?
So I would say this: before that video short came out, I would have said the future is doing this, just writing. Since that video came out, it's given me a platform, a larger platform by far, to actually speak out. Just in my own personal life, and I think we're actually going up as a society. Believe it or not, I think we're actually going up. There's going to be bumps in the roads, a lot of them, but it was said a long time ago that with great strife comes strong men. Bad times create strong men. And I think that we're at that point again. It's a cycle that constantly happens because we always want to make things easier for our children. That's also a dumb mistake because we keep repeating the same mistake. So we're in that point now. No matter what happened politically, there's going to be hard times ahead of us, but there's also going to be really good periods in between those particular hard times. If you're coming up on 50 years old, you've already lived through it twice. No matter what people think of, individual presidents, the president we had back in the early 80s prevented World War III at the time, the Cold War. And there was really hard times after that because there was a lot of money spent and there was a lot of, effort put into that. And particularly here in the US, our economy suffered for a number of years. It was really sad to say that Bill Clinton actually had to be the one to pick it up. But don't mention the president before him.
Well, I mean, Michael Mouse, hero of mine, said that in 1988, if you had said the Soviet Union was going to fall in 1989, people would have called you crazy. So you never know. You never know. There's always a potential for the white pill to come in.
There's always a future. It's what we as a society make of it. If everybody wants to go around whining that it sucks, well, that's what they think of it. That's what it will be.
All right. We'll tell you what, man. First of all, thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate you. Great to meet you. And thanks for all the information and definitely appreciate you telling your story and being so honest and open. And I hope that maybe somebody watches this and it helps them in some way. And, if someone wants to reach out to you, what will be the best way? Maybe Twitter or something like that.
Twitter would be a good one, or let's see, Twitter, or they can reach out to me on the community page on my YouTube, or find me elsewhere. I'm everywhere. So
okay, well, for anybody out there who wants to, feels the need to reach out, you know where to go now. We'll put his links in the show notes. On the show, we like to toast the goats, Captain. So
thank you guys.
Cheers to you.
Cheers to you.
Cheers. Also, I just followed you on Twitch. You're on Kick
I
too.
appreciate that.
You're on Kick too?
Yeah.
Nice.
Actually, I just started Kick.
By the way,
I'll
people,
follow you, man. We'll have to play some PUBG together. I love PUBG.
Sure.
By the way, everybody, Deezy's on Twitch and Kick. I don't know when this happened, but he's on it. So we're going to put those links in the notes as well. Everybody go follow Deezy over here. You might just see him win big, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to say what that is. You're going to have to find out by following Deezy over here. But he's doing some big things. on Twitch and Kick. But with that, again, Captain, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing so much. And Fresh, as we mosey on out of here, what do the people got to do?
You got to like, subscribe, hit the bell, drop a comment, and just send it to everybody in your life, man. Everybody's going to want to see this.